In a landmark decision, a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C., delivered a sharp rebuke to President Trump's sweeping Liberation Day tariff plan. On August 29, 2025, the court ruled 7-4 that the president had overstepped his authority, declaring the tariffs unconstitutional under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. The judges drew a clear line. Regulating international commerce does not give the president the unilateral power to tax imports. Only Congress holds that authority. The court's language was blunt, calling the tariffs unbounded in scope, amount, and duration, and warning of unchecked executive power. Unlike other statutes, IEEPA lacked the procedural and substantive limits that traditionally constrain presidential tariff authority. Despite the ruling, the court allowed the tariffs to remain in effect until October 14, 2025, to avoid economic chaos and give the administration time to appeal. The Trump administration responded quickly, filing a petition with the Supreme Court and requesting an expedited review. The urgency underscored how central the tariffs are to Trump's economic agenda. Now the legal battle has escalated to the nation's highest court, transforming a trade dispute into a constitutional showdown over the separation of powers. Businesses and consumers remain in limbo, awaiting a final decision. The stakes, not just the fate of the tariffs, but the limits of presidential authority in the modern era. The outcome will shape the balance of power between Congress and the White House for years to come. The nation watches as the Supreme Court prepares to weigh in. President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, launched on April 2, 2025, marked a dramatic shift in U.S. trade policy. The sweeping duties targeted nearly every country, with rates starting at 10% and escalating to over 100% on some goods. The average U.S. tariff rate soared to levels unseen in generations, sending shockwaves through global supply chains. Trump declared a national emergency, framing the tariffs as essential for national and economic security. His administration argued that decades of unfair trade had hollowed out American industry, demanding drastic action. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended the policy, insisting only IEEPA gave the president the speed and power needed to confront global rivals. Trump's messaging cast the tariffs as a patriotic stand, America reclaiming its economic sovereignty. On social media, he warned that overturning the tariffs would destroy the United States, mobilizing his base and painting opposition as unpatriotic. For Trump, the tariffs were more than policy. They were a symbol of his America First vision. The legal and political battle over the tariffs became a test of his leadership and the reach of executive power. The world watched as the U.S. redefined its role in global trade. The legal fight centers on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. Trump's team argued IEEPA gave the president broad authority to impose tariffs after declaring a national emergency. Opponents, led by attorney Neil Katyal, countered that only Congress can levy taxes and tariffs, a power the Constitution reserves for the legislative branch. The court agreed, ruling that IEEPA's vague language could not be stretched to grant the president limitless taxing power. Historically, Congress has set clear limits when delegating tariff authority. Trump's use of IEEPA bypassed all such constraints. The case has become a defining test of presidential emergency powers and the separation of powers. The Supreme Court's decision will set a precedent for future presidents. Can a national emergency unlock powers the Constitution reserves for Congress? The answer will shape the boundaries of executive authority for decades. The stakes could not be higher. The Liberation Day tariffs hit the American economy hard and fast. Prices for everyday goods, coffee, sugar, clothing, cars, jumped as importers passed costs to consumers, fueling inflation. Small businesses like Victor Schwartz's wine import company faced layoffs and financial strain, their business models upended by sudden, unpredictable duties. Major U.S. brands suffered too, as foreign retaliation made American exports less competitive. Companies like Levi's and Tesla reported slumping sales abroad and warned of rising anti-American sentiment. If the Supreme Court upholds the lower court, tariffs could be slashed, offering relief to importers and consumers. The government might even have to refund billions in illegally collected tariffs, a potential fiscal shock. The economic uncertainty is profound, with businesses and households caught in the crossfire. The outcome will ripple through every corner of the economy. The stakes are not just legal, they're personal for millions of Americans. With the appeals court ruling against him, Trump's last hope lies with the Supreme Court. The administration is pushing for a fast decision, seeking clarity before year's end. The legal arguments are clear. Trump's team says broad IEPA powers are vital for a modern president. Opponents warn that unchecked authority erodes the Constitution's separation of powers. The justices must weigh executive flexibility against congressional control. The outcome could redefine the balance of power in Washington. Upholding the lower court would reassert Congress's authority. Overturning it would expand presidential power dramatically. The decision will echo far beyond tariffs, shaping the future of American governance. All eyes are on the 9 justices as they prepare to decide. The tariff fight is more than a legal battle. It's a struggle over the future of executive power. For Trump and his supporters, the tariffs are a core promise to protect American workers and challenge global elites. The court's ruling is seen as a political attack, fueling a narrative of an embattled president fighting for his base. Congress is divided, with some Republicans breaking ranks to challenge the tariffs, signaling a renewed interest in reclaiming legislative authority. The legal uncertainty has stalled trade talks with key allies, leaving U.S. diplomacy in limbo. The case forces a reckoning. How much power should the president wield in economic policy? The Supreme Court's decision will either endorse a new era of executive dominance or restore Congress's traditional role. The outcome will reshape the balance of power for years to come. The stakes are nothing less than the future of American governance. With IEPA under threat, the Trump administration is eyeing a backup plan, Section 338 of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. This rarely used law lets the president impose tariffs up to 50% on countries that discriminate against U.S. trade. Smoot-Hawley is infamous for worsening the Great Depression by triggering a global trade war. Reviving it would be controversial, risking economic retaliation and instability. The administration's willingness to consider Smoot-Hawley shows its commitment to high tariffs, no matter the legal or historical risks. Critics warn this move ignores painful lessons of the past and could plunge the world into renewed protectionism. For Trump, tariffs are more than a tactic. They're an end in themselves. The legal fight may shift, but the trade war is far from over. As October 2025 ends, American trade policy hangs in the balance. The Supreme Court's looming decision will either validate Trump's executive power or deal it a fatal blow. Until then, uncertainty clouds global markets, with businesses and investors on edge. If the court upholds the lower ruling, Trump may have to work with Congress or pivot to Smoot-Hawley, triggering new battles. America's allies and rivals are watching closely, ready to adjust their own policies. The outcome will shape the global trading system and the future of presidential power. The Liberation Day tariffs have sparked a national and international reckoning over the limits of executive authority. The next chapter will be written by the Supreme Court, and its impact will be felt worldwide.